And welcome. David Levin here, Raising Your Game Today. This is Tuesday, so we're talking about the mental game of sports and competition. Fridays are for the rest of our lives. This week, I want to talk about Madison Keys. She won the Australian Open tennis tournament this week and had some great things to say about the mental game work that helped her do that. And this is especially fun because I've had a note for a while to do an episode about her because of a comment she made where she said, quote, "I think that no matter what you're doing, you have to enjoy it. I know I play better tennis when I'm having fun in the moment, just always finding the positive and bringing that to the court," end quote. I am always talking about the power of fun for peak performance to the point that it's actually one of the foundations of our advanced mental game mastery course. How can you use this idea of having fun as a goal and develop practical systems to get you into that space consistently? But then she went on to win her first Grand Slam, so I thought, this is great. That attitude got her to her ultimate goal. We definitely have to talk about that. And it turns out the story was even more interesting and instructive than I originally imagined. So for a little background, she's had an interesting journey. She's 29 now, which of course puts her closer to the end of her career than the beginning. It also makes her the oldest women's player to win her first Grand Slam. That's interesting, pretty cool. But she started early. She turned pro at 14, if you can imagine that. Started strong. From the very beginning, the vibe on her was that she was destined to be a Grand Slam winner. And she got close at different times. But at this point, 15 years as a pro, it still hadn't happened. And that was starting to be an issue for her with her mental game. And it makes total sense, right? All those years, her peak ranking was 8 years ago. As an athlete, time is not your friend, right? You can easily understand her starting to think maybe it was just never going to happen. But the deeper question was not just, is it never going to happen, but what does that say about me? If I don't win a Grand Slam, am I a failure? Will people say I was not actually a great player? Did I not have a successful career? Did I just never live up to my potential? Those are the deepest kinds of questions we can ask about ourselves, and they turned into an additional mental game pressure and burden for her. But over the last year or two, she started working on those, going to regular therapy. So not just sports psychology work, but general therapy. And that's exactly what she worked on. How do I feel about myself, both in tennis and even outside of tennis, just a person in general? And she said she got to the point where she was happy and proud of her career, even without a Grand Slam win. And that helped her start to be more present in her matches and play better and have more fun with all of it, which is where that earlier quote came from. And now this week, finally, she got her first Grand Slam win. And when they asked her how it felt, the first thing she said was, "I'm just really proud of myself. I didn't always believe I can get back here, but I put in the work, I finally did it, and it just means the world to me." That is the best feeling there is. You have to feel great for her for that. So happy. She was already in a place where she felt good, even if it never happened. To then have it happen on top of that is just the best. And that feeling is going to be with her for the rest of her life. That's so lovely. So there are many great mental game lessons in here. The first is that you have to work on it. It has to be a part of your training and a major part. You're going to have issues. We all do. They're not going to get better on their own. You have to commit yourself to being every bit as dedicated to work on your mental game as you are on your physical game. Second, I talk about this in our Sports Academy course, but there are two kinds of mental game work to do. The first is learning the core self-awareness and self-regulation skills, like we teach in the Academy, how the inner game works and how to control it at a practical, actionable level. And for the vast majority of our mental game issues, that's going to be all we need. We don't actually need therapy. We just need to learn how to better control our thoughts and emotions. But sometimes that isn't enough. Sometimes we learn the basic skills and there's still something in there, some deeper issue holding us back. That's exactly what happened with Madison. She said earlier she had done the typical sports psychology work, which she described as focusing on process and what you can control. And she said she's pretty good at that. But these other deeper identity questions were still affecting her performance, and they were getting worse. So she decided to go after those too, and that made the ultimate difference. So not only do you have to work on your mental game, but you have to be open to doing both kinds of work. Core skills first, deeper therapy if needed. The third lesson for me is that the mental game really is everything. She talked about making a couple of physical changes last year too. She changed her racket, changed her strings, changed part of her serve mechanics. They all help make the difference too, but every one of those also required mental game work on her part to feel okay to try them in the first place. And you can imagine that too, right? Scary to make even small changes at that level of competition and mastery. And the final lesson is what I first wanted to share from her, which is that you have to enjoy what you're doing. Fun is the key to peak performance. When you're having fun, you're playing your best. She found a way to bring the fun back against some pretty great odds. We can all take inspiration from her to make a similar difference in our game. All right, if you want to boost your mental game, check out our Sports Academy training and our Advanced Mental Game Mastery course. It may be all you ever need to consistently play your best. RaiseYourGame.com for that. If your mental game questions are more about work than sports, check out our executive coaching program at davidlevin.com. Either way, a strong mental game is the key to doing your best and feeling good about yourself, and it's not going to get there by itself. All right, that's it for this week. Let me know if you have any questions. Keep up the good work. I'll see you next time.